get the situation in order so that we can watch a game of football. That's the terrace at the left end, which an hour or more ago was occupied by supporters of Juventus, with the main Liverpool body to the right. Down in front now the main stand and the home straight of stadium, famous of course also for athletics as well as for football. They hold the Ivo van Dam Memorial meeting here. And talking of meetings at this precise moment, UEFA, who are responsible of course for all the European competitions, are meeting to decide what to do. We hear that paratroopers from the Belgian army have been sent for. The figure of those who are feared to have died is still at 15, and it appears that the idea of bringing in members of the army is because obviously the spectators at the Juventus end are not aware, indeed, that there have been any fatalities, and obviously we don't know either whether the fatalities are from those who travelled out from England or those who made their way from Italy, or indeed those who gained tickets in this capital. Officially there were 14,500 tickets for each club, and the crowd limited to 52,000 here in the stadium. But the majority, and let us stress this point, the majority of Liverpool supporters standing quite calmly, coming to support their team on its way to winning the European Cup for the 5th time. But they, like we, wait to see the outcome, hear the outcome rather, of the UEFA meeting. So back to you, Jim.
Incredible scenes here from the Heysel Stadium in Brussels, Mike. It's hard to say, you know, what we feel at this present time, because we come in, we set up what could be the highlight of the European season, the European Cup, and we're faced with scenes like this. Absolutely appalling. But unfortunately, the face of soccer in the 80s.
Yes, Dick, that's right. It makes you sick to the stomach. What I'd like to say in there, I'm afraid I couldn't. And it's certainly does the game of soccer no good at all. We're trying to promote the game, and you see scenes like this, it's totally, what can you say, I'm speechless. When you consider all the tradition that's been involved with soccer over the years, the wonderful teams of Real Madrid, Eintracht Frankfurt, the Benfica teams of old, and you really want to see these players play. You don't want to see situations like this, and as I say, I'm utterly speechless as to what's happened here.
It's incredible. You know, you see the riot police, we see the medical personnel, we still see isolated scenes of violence, you know, with individual fans. You just wonder, you know, whether they come to watch soccer games. You know, we've had many instances in England this last season where really it's been a case of specialised aggro groups that have gone to games specifically to cause problems. You would like to think in a game of this magnitude, where you're putting money to travel to Belgium to watch the game, that really your main motive is to support your team. And this is the thing that I just cannot weigh up, because it's just tragic to see scenes like this. As you say, words can't describe it, but we're certainly not social psychologists. We can't look into it, but certainly it certainly leaves a bad taste in our mouths when we're trying to set up the highlight game of the season, and instead we're throwing to scenes like this on a beautiful evening in Brussels. You know, the stage is set. You wonder what goes through the minds actually of the players in the dressing rooms at a time like this, because obviously they want to get out there and play. They prepared themselves physiologically, psychologically and then suddenly things like this happen. You wonder what goes through their minds.
That's right, Dick, and you look at the scene right now, and it's really tragic. You see the riot police, they're calling in paratroopers. We did hear that there were 15 deaths. I mean, it's tragic, and I'm sure that once, and now we see a problem. I think we see a couple of the Juventus players have come out onto the pitch there. Obviously they're trying to calm down the Italian supporters. We really don't know who has died. We know that 15 people have died, and we don't know who they are, and obviously now the word is getting out to the spectators that there have been some deaths, and of course I can't just make out who the Juventus players are, but I think that
it looks like Brio.
Scirea is there, I think, number 5, and obviously they are trying to calm down the spectators or Juventus supporters. Really such a tragedy.
That's Massimo Brio, and he's Brio, a big lad himself, yes. But you know, it takes a lot of courage to do this where the players are coming out onto the field. You know, they're supposed to be preparing for the highlight of their professional careers in many cases. Instead, they're coming out to calm down a crowd that's really on the verge of sort of getting into even worse kind of conditions that we've seen. And as I say, you wonder what on earth goes through the mind of fans that cause these things to happen. And the things that are happening in England at the moment with Margaret Thatcher, you know, something has got to be done about it, and a lot of blame is put on clubs. But really, if an individual or a group of individuals make up their mind to go into a stadium in a very confined area and cause problems, it is very difficult to monitor that. One of the things that was mentioned earlier was that there were only sort of a very small number of police present at the start of the game, and now they've had to call in paramilitary units, and we're looking at a far more serious situation. But the scenes here where you see the Juventus players coming out to calm the crowd down just takes everything away from a game of this nature.
Yes, Dick, and again, you just repeating of what you said about the problems in England in particular. As we know, there have been some great problems there this year, and I think the key thing is we did see some punishment handed out just last week to some Cambridge United supporters. The one fellow was the ringleader, and he received 5 years in jail, and those are the type of punishments that will act as deterrents as far as I'm concerned. Something has to be done. The Margaret Thatcher has to really get involved and make this thing stick, because it's certainly giving the British supporters the bad name all over the world, and we are not sure of how this thing happened today, but as you say, things like this now seem to be at every game we have problems.
It certainly is the face of soccer in the 80s. You wonder about pride and people carrying a Union Jack overseas. You know, there will be a source of pride in supporting your team. You wonder what triggers these things off, because one of the gentlemen that was sentenced to a prison sentence recently in England was not what you would think somebody who was unemployed and having problems, but a well-educated person. Yeah. And one of the things that came out from the problems at the Millwall game at Luton was that it was a very well-organised sort of group of people, yes, that just went around causing problems. And they're the same kind of people that were protesting nuclear protesters, you name it. They were just professional agitators. Now, to see scenes like this, you know, I'm sure that the Liverpool Football Club, with such a marvellous tradition, to see scenes of this nature must make them feel very badly, if indeed it is a case of Liverpool fans who've caused the problems. And at the moment we don't know. We're just going on reports that are coming in via the radio and via the commentators there, so it's all conjecture at the moment. But certainly there are meetings going on at the present time with the UEFA officials as to what should happen. Hopefully they will be able to get the game underway, because that should act as a calming influence. But members of the Juventus staff are certainly on the field and doing a marvellous job here to try and calm down the emotions of people who've maybe seen things happening that they don't want to see happening, and that takes a lot of courage. The Liverpool team, we haven't seen any members of the Liverpool team at the moment coming onto the field.
Yes, Dick, it's a sad sight to see all these. We would have to, regarding the comment that you made of the security of the stadium, figure was tossed around that there were only 25 policemen in the stadium. It seems to me to be just ridiculous with a situation like we have today with the cup finals and the supporters from two different countries come in. They should surely be well prepared for such a situation. Not that I am in favour of it, however, they should foresee that something might happen. However, it's all very well to talk now that it has happened, and we see now, just in your picture there, it seems that more people are being carried out from the stadium. It's such a tragic sight to see. This wonderful game of soccer certainly has come to the lowest pinnacle today with this performance as we're seeing it on the screen right now. It's just unbelievable what we're seeing. Words cannot express the feelings that and I'm sure all our proper supporters of soccer are looking right now and just can't believe what's happening.
Exactly, and this is a thing that a lot of people have taken time off work today. I know lots of people that had various reasons why they couldn't go in this afternoon to watch what should have been a classic, and they're forced to see this kind of situation. There's just been an announcement at the stadium over the loudspeakers, and we're trying to find out what in fact was said.
I understand that the information that we have now, Dick, is that it's now 28 people have died in this fracas that occurred just about 1 hour ago in the stadium. 28 people. I mean, that's something that's well, what can one say? There's 52,000 people there. The stadium does hold 60. Now we see obviously the scene of all the riot and scene of the crimes. The stadium does hold 62,000, and I do believe they restricted the attendance today to 52,000, and we're just keeping on getting some updates here from our staff.
Yeah, we're trying to get updates now via reports from all over, and in fact on our wire services. And we just had one that's come in, it's just been handed to us via Reuters, that at least 28 fans were killed when a grandstand collapsed at the European Soccer Cup final in Brussels. And this is the word from the police force at the stadium, and we'll hopefully get more updates on that. But 28 fans, and apparently the grandstand collapsed at the stadium, and that's what caused the situation, the tragic scene we see at the moment.
Yeah, well, it is now at least we do know the reason, Dick, that it is the grandstand that has collapsed. I mean, that's terrible, a tragic happening. And once again we look back at the tragic scenes in soccer not just 3 weeks ago, when in England at Bradford City we saw the Bradford City stand burn down, and again we had 53 people lose their lives at a soccer match. So I guess we will continue to bring you updates as to
And we're now just getting an update of how it actually started,
pictures of,
and we can maybe pick up the feed from the BBC.
These are recorded pictures as some Liverpool supporters moved into the Juventus area. You can see the Juventus supporters trying to get over the wall to our right. Some of them are moving away at the top of the picture and down towards the running track, and it was the pressure of movement down towards the running track which resulted in the wall giving way and people being pinned underneath it. Just look at one or two of these faces. They're faces of fear, frightened people who just don't understand what has happened. And really, there's such an overwhelming feeling here, sitting in the stand, watching these pictures from earlier, looking at the stadium now, a feeling of total helplessness, a feeling of sympathy for those who've been killed and injured, a sympathy for people who love to watch their sport, a sympathy for the game of football, which was one of those things to unite people, which is now in an extraordinary way become, amongst the minority, some sort of substitute for war. that people go to watch football matches to defend